Hello and welcome to SEO Rankings Do Follow podcast. Here we hold regular talks with SEO and digital marketing experts on hot SEO topics and also ask them to share actionable insights with the SEO community. So subscribe to stay on top of everything going on in SEO. Today we're going to be discussing non-trivial SEO, enhancing your website's performance through unusual approaches. To help us explore this topic, we are joined by Lukasz Zelezny, director and co-owner of SEO.London. Welcome, Lukasz. Great to have you with us.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure, honor, and privilege. And yeah, it's been a while. I'm a big fan of SEO ranking and also happy to be part of this talk today.
I'm really excited about this as well. And I would love to start by asking you to tell us a bit more about your journey in SEO, how you got started, how you got to where you are today. Yeah, and then we'll continue from there.
Okay, so once upon a time, long time ago, I was this kind of teenager in Poland, and I was really into music. And in fact, I noticed that everyone have an interesting story how they started in SEO. My story is that when I was a DJ, playing drum and bass and producing music, I noticed that because I'm from the small town and the gigs are in the big town, then I will have a trouble to find booking for the clubs and so on and so on. And I started building website. I started thinking how to get traffic. That was way before Google Analytics. And in fact, I was doing something I wasn't aware of. That was something on the edge of PR and SEO. It was so early that I was not even fully aware that I'm doing actually marketing around my persona. And that was early 2000. And then fast forward, I moved to United Kingdom, where I'm living right now, in 2007. Since then, I was living here. And all that time, from 2007, I was working in SEO in various companies, in-house as a client side. It was a journey because I was, relatively, maybe not that many companies, but I was changing every 2-3 years, going higher and higher. And then finally I ended up in Uswitch, which later been acquired by Zoopla. And I was there 6 years. On the side, I was building my own consultancy, and somewhere in 2018, I decided that it's time to move permanently into my own business. So I launched SEO.London, which I was thinking that is a quite cool domain to have. Initially, I was targeting London companies, but later truth was that I started having a company from Germany, Netherlands, Poland, as well as Singapore or Hong Kong. So it is a very interesting journey, very exciting, I would say.
Yeah, definitely exciting because you wanted to solve your own problem, like being a DJ and getting promotion. Actually, SEO Ranking started the same way. We were looking for a rank tracker. And this was like 10 years ago, and we just built one in-house for a previous project. And then it grew from an idea that we just wanted to solve our own problem. So a really interesting journey. And I would like to sort of make a segue into the topic of today. So like unusual and traditional, non-trivial ways of doing SEO. How do you define that? Is just words, or is it like, does it imply some sort of process?
I think this non-trivial SEO is a part of the big SEO view. However, that's are things that I am always looking for, observing what's going on at the industry. So I'm trying to find my own path, something that from one side is efficient and from the other side doesn't burn all the resources in-house. So I recently went on the conference where I was speaking that was in Warsaw. And there was a gentleman who was telling about schema markups. Okay, I was like, yeah, carry on. And he gave some ideas. And then from the audience, there was one hand raised. And the question was very interesting. The question was, okay, that's interesting what you presented. Now I have 25,000 products in my e-commerce. How will I implement? And the answer was, yeah, it will take a bit of time. And this is where this advice completely broke apart, because 25,000 products and what will be copy paste. No, you need to have something that is executable in reasonable time. this is the most common bottleneck. So I'm looking for working with companies, because my role is a consultant. I am consulting the companies who have at their end in-house team. My role is not only to give them good advices that they can change the optic of the organic performance, but also that they are able to execute this. So I cannot come and say like, write 3,000 articles until next week, because it will never happen. Despite from the fact how crappy this idea is, of course. So that's where this non-trivial SEO ideas came, and I wanted to share a couple of ideas today.
Yeah, so maybe you could give us a bit more specific examples, like what is an approach that nobody has tried? Well, not nobody, because I realize that these are just not the top of the line that everybody talks about at like a basic SEO webinars. So something that you have to dig into, or even like take a risk into trying. So maybe you can give us an idea of these approaches that you find success with.
Yeah. So you see, first example could be taking your website and as if by magic, making available for other languages. If you have a WordPress or if you have a Webflow, that's relatively easy, because the whole process is about to configure for WordPress, translate, press, and plug in DeepL API. And for Webflow is to execute the same thing through Weglot. Now, when we're thinking about translation, automatic translation, there is a couple of questions I normally have from the customer. First question is, but in French, we can only say au revoir, and how we will be dealing with it. I was like, leave it. The fact that people are searching in French doesn't make automatically them not being English fluent. So this is the common misconception. Someone entered my website because of, I have like inquiries from Italy, and these people very often searching for SEO consultancy using Italian keywords. They're landing on my website, they're sending me inquiry, and then we're speaking in English. So it's not right to assume that if someone I had a Lithuanian guy from London, and first question was like, are you Lithuanian? I was like, no. Because your website is in Lithuanian. I was like, yes. And because you searched this initially in Lithuanian, you could find my website. The second problem is that companies are raising this question like, hey, our support doesn't talk in this or that language. And again, like, hold up. If you will really have repetitive situation that people want to speak Spanish, that's a beautiful problem to have. Hire somebody, sort it, yeah? And when you can convince that, and in fact, your content is starting to be like multiplied, the availability of the content and availability of the content to be found is multiplied by number of languages you can implement. Now, the last question that is always asked is like, but this is automatic translation, blah, blah, blah. Okay, fair enough. The quality is important, and I think you will get 85% of the perfection. Yeah. But now, if you would like to close this gap, this 15%, and make this absolutely perfect translation, that is the moment when the resources and the cost are skyrocketing, because that means I need to have Japanese translator, Korean translator, Chinese translator. I have 300 blog posts, multiplication, time needed to do this, and so on and so on and so on. And at the end of the day, what you will have like Shakespeare-like quality of translation of your website to Japanese, and okay, you have a satisfaction. But then what? If there is a client who, for example, will say, I would convert, but because there is this little grammar mistake or little strange word used, and I personally had one Greek guy who wrote to me like, and there was one time only in a couple of years, who wrote me like, how dare you to use our language with grammar mistake? And I was like, all right, sorry. And that's it. So, and then lots of other things is like competitiveness of the keywords in other languages, saturation of or maybe the penetration of the market, because normally we're thinking about volume. Yeah. Okay. But if you have a website about something specific and you will translate this website into Latvian, Lithuanian, and Estonian, don't expect thousands of visits, especially if you are operating in niche market. But, you may be the only one who is there on this market, and people may search in these languages and then enter your website. So that's one of the few non-trivial SEO approaches that I have in my mind.
Could you maybe provide us with a couple of more examples that have to do with managing data from, I don't know, like Google, or maybe breaking down websites into properties, building backlinks from very authoritative resources to build up your own website? What are the other non-traditional ways of doing SEO that bring results? What else can we focus on? Maybe you can isolate a couple of bullet points that we can sort of dissect a bit closer, a bit deeper.
Absolutely. So we were talking about languages, but there is a couple of more things regarding data. Search Console can be a super duper powerful tool itself, but can be even more powerful when you connect Search Console through the Data Studio. And very simple way you can connect this without knowing any API and so on and so on. Everything is as if by magic. Everyone knows that Search Console have this kind of ability to show you up to 1,000 keywords or 1,000 queries and 1,000 URLs. But when you go through Looker Studio and you're connecting Search Console data to the Looker Studio, somehow there is gate of additional data. So I can export up to 1 million queries. I can export up to 1 million URLs. So these things are starting to change the optic of what is really in the Search Console. And I can see that rarely clients or SEOs are remembering about this. I have a big template that I am using, and I'm then plugging the data from the client. I can do a split between generic and brand keywords. I can see monthly growth, not like daily, because daily on the chart originally in Search Console may be a bit misleading. But first of all, there is a data that I can export plenty of keywords, much more than I would be able to do this straight away from Search Console. And this is one of the way. Another way is, if we're talking about Search Console, I had a discussion about this recently on one of the group. You see, the problem with Search Console is when you're going to list pages that are not indexed because of some various reason, you always getting first 1,000. Okay, fair enough. But let's say website contain a couple of 100,000, yeah. And what next? Now, if we want to have a bit deeper view, then what we should do, we should try, and this is very important to mention before I will go any further down the road, it's nothing related to the sitemap, but adding multiple properties of the same website based on the URL structure. So if you have holidays.com/Egypt/ and there is everything about Egypt, all the pages. And then you have holidays.com/Turkey, and inside there is everything about Turkey, a couple of pages or 100 of pages, and so on and so on. You can start adding this subsections as properties in the Google Search Console. And then if you will go to indexation or problems, you only look at this one cluster, Egypt cluster or Turkey cluster, and so on and so on. So that way, I rarely see that from my clients. And this is super useful where you are talking about bigger websites, because it gives me very little insight if I see recent 1,000 URLs from yesterday that been not indexed because of various reasons. I want to be able to say like, okay, but was this Egypt more than, for example, Turkey, or that was Turkey or Morocco, and so on and so on. For example, when we're talking about holiday website, another example was like a car fixing website, and they had 60 products, and inside this product there was the structure of car and make and model. Yeah, so let's say engine failure. Yeah, so example.com/engine failure/ and there you had Ford Fiesta, Ford Focus, Ford Mondeo, and so on and so on. So you can imagine that in each cluster of problem, inside there was about like 500 pages. Adding all these products, adding all these problems into section, into Search Console will give you ability to look much more granular, much more focused, much more deeper, and then you can easily identify that maybe some products are not giving any traffic or are hardly digestible by Google in terms of indexation. And then you can try to fix this or even exclude this from index, because Google somehow don't want to index this, then maybe there are some reason. Another thing is Parasite SEO, which we're talking a lot about here and there, but I feel like it's hard for people to really execute this. So execution should be based on where this website already are ranking. Let's take Medium or LinkedIn polls. They are ranking of hundreds of thousands of keywords already in top 5. And if you can exclude from that hundreds of thousands of keywords in top 5, these keywords that really resonate with your business, then you can create additional articles which will replace the existing one in top 5, and that will be your articles that will be ranking.
You mentioned that traditionally you go to Google Search Console, you can pull 1,000 results. With Looker Studio, you can pull millions. And I already understand the benefits straight away, but maybe there's a way we can blend data even further in Looker Studio to get even more benefits. Because I'm talking about Looker Studio because this ranking has an integration with the Looker Studio, and we have our own custom dashboards. And so if any of our users are listening, they can already sort of use your advice to go and play around with Looker Studio a bit more. So if there's, besides this obvious, like I'm sold on this, like if you're not using Looker Studio to pull out millions of results at the same time, you're missing out just completely and just losing a lot of resources and time. Is there anything else we can do, like add data integrated somehow with Looker Studio to get even more actionable insights?
Absolutely. So blending that you mentioned is one of the next step. I blend sometimes data from Search Console with the data from Google Analytics, plus with the data from other sources. Yeah. So that is definitely something that we should always have at the back of our strategy. I think lots of people are still like, oh, I can do VLOOKUP and so on in the Excel. Yes, you can, but it's static. It's static and it will be static. And Looker Studio can, of course, give you this ad hoc view at any time and so on and so on. So like you mentioned, SE ranking have ability to provide data through the Looker Studio, and that's pretty much all you need to have. And then, based on URLs or based on keywords. Again, I would be very careful about blending data because sometimes can meet this gargantuan dashboards that doesn't make any sense. It's just like a bunch of data over data, and just give me something meaningful and actionable. So, for example, one of the actionable things would be that show me the keywords that already ranking according to SE ranking and delivering traffic, but not yet are on the first position, and go one keyword per URL just to go as broad as possible. Yeah, and this is one of the tactics that I am always suggesting to the customers.
Do you use AI in any way just to help you sort that information? Because it's a lot of data. Maybe you are working on some sort of custom code program. I'm not necessarily talking about ChatGPT because we have a couple of colleagues that already have their own flows that sort of automate, just like even this conversation. They click record, it's listening in the background, it makes bullet points, it sends out a post right after our meeting. We have a social media post without me doing a single thing. So maybe you have a process or maybe an idea of working with AI to sort of ease this process a bit, because like you said, like you want to get a summary, because at the end of the day, people want to do a lot of things fast.
So you see, data analysis through the ChatGPT, we need to remember that ChatGPT and OpenAI API are not trained exclusively for that. So there is always a risk that it can start hallucinating and so on and so on. But everything that is closer to the language, to the semantic, that can be a massive game changer. And one of the way I am using ChatGPT, not for generating content, and not ChatGPT, actually I'm using OpenAI API in the Google Sheet, is, for example, you have 300 blog posts, and you know what categories roughly client want to categorize this blog post in. So based on title tag, meta description, and the URL and H1, which you can scrape easily, you can write a prompt knowing that you can use one and only one exclusively category from the provided list. And then there is a list of categories. Associate following data with the most relevant category. And then you can populate this through 300 rows, and, in 1 minute, where each blog post should belong. The same with tagging, for example, or even doing research, like knowing that in Surrey, United Kingdom, these locations been already covered on the website. Please create a list of additional 20, except of the selected one in the previous batch. And based on this, it will be done. Latitude, longitude, looking for the geo-oriented websites. So, again, like, I know that it's very easy to start generating ton of content with the OpenAI API or ChatGPT, which is pretty much the same. But there are other things that you can do that would fall into this non-trivial SEO.
I wanted to talk a bit more about breaking a website into multiple properties in terms of are there specific types of websites or a scenario of a business where they need to implement this and this will give them a lot more benefits than just having some traditional, like you said, the example you said was travel. Just to give our listeners different ideas. So just maybe you can name everyone and then they'll hear themselves and they'll think that this is an opportunity for me to break something, just to break my website into different properties.
Everything that it has nested cascading structure. So it wouldn't work for a flat structure website if everything is in the root folder. It wouldn't probably work for the small website, but everything bigger. So properties, for example, you may have / for rent, / for sale, and you can even go deeper, / for rent / flats, / for rent / houses, and all the sections can be added to the Search Console like they would be separate website. In fact, they are a part of the main domain website. So holidays, properties, car fixing websites, anything that is like classified websites, everything that have relatively large structure in terms of URLs and would give a benefit to be splitted. I wouldn't go with anything that have less than 1,000 URLs because that can be visible pretty well in the main property in the Search Console. But everything that have, let's say 10,000 URLs and above, then probably it's something to consider.
Are there any challenges or common pitfalls that you've come across when trying to break a website into multiple properties? Is there something that people need to look out for specifically? Because like you said, you gave us a good example. You specified that you need to have at least 1,000 pages in there to deserve its own property. But maybe people are just very excited about this. They want to start breaking it down, and then they have only 5, for example, URLs under that category. What is the picture going to be like for them?
I think the main challenge is to share this, because if you will have 50, 60 properties, then sharing this with your team, it's a pain, because you cannot do this by bulk. You need to go by each property and then start sharing with other people. But I wouldn't say, even if you have 5 URLs, it's fine. You roughly know what is the structure of your website. Yeah, you know that if you have a blog and you created tags and categories and you created so many tags. I sometimes see like people have 500 blog posts and 3,000 tags. And some tags have only one article, or sometimes even tags doesn't have an article. And this is not maybe that easy to find if there are other areas which kind of making this view a bit fuzzy. I wouldn't say that the number of URLs is any obstacle, rather logical, being a bit logical in terms of how we want to split this. That would be my first choice. The languages that I mentioned is a fantastic way. Every language added to the Search Console as a separate property. Of course, someone will say like, yeah, you can filter this. Yes, you can. But some of the things you cannot, like indexation. How many URLs is indexed? How many URLs is not indexed? And then you can compare that. In Japanese language, I have 80% of the URLs indexed, but Indonesian, Bahasa Indonesia is only 30%. So if Japanese is indexed and Bahasa Indonesia is not, maybe I should help Indonesian language to be indexed rather than focusing on Japanese.
Okay, I want to talk about, ask you about content silos. Is that an approach that can give you the right results if it's set up properly? Firstly, if you could just give us a definition of content silos, and what is your experience with this approach?
The content silos, my experience is that unfortunately that can be another core web vitals So let me step back from this and say this core web vitals now less, but before people were religiously optimizing over and over and over. And I saw a couple of situations that, okay, we have WordPress is slow, we will move to custom CMS. And when I hear as an SEO custom CMS, I know it will be a pain. And, I could see, Strappy together with headless something, yada, 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 yada. Then, suddenly, you have green Core Web Vitals. Traffic is exactly the same or lower because you don't migration, but you're getting extra benefit that now to update website, you need to ask developers. Yeah, because there is no panel, a backend, and so on and so on and so on. And after 2-3 years, the decision is like, you know what, let's go back to WordPress. Yeah, because at least our marketing team have a tool to promote our business. And the same is with silo. Amount of work sometimes I see people are putting into the silos, and the result that they are getting, I would say it's not what you would expect with that amount of work. Yeah. So of course, maybe for more niche websites, that would be nice approach, but believing that siloing the website will give you immediate benefit, I'm really skeptical.
Thank you. I wanted to go back to Parasite SEO that you mentioned earlier, and you were referring to sources like Medium and LinkedIn being platforms that help you sort of implement your strategy using this approach. What would you do on YouTube, LinkedIn, Medium to do this? Like, where would you start?
Yeah, so you see, like when we're talking about YouTube, normally people are like, I need to write video, I need to record a video about this. And I'm always saying like, hold up, let's try to tie this concept that you have in your mind into what YouTube is ranking on currently high in Google. So when someone will search that topic you said about, there is a chance that they will land on your video and they will be able to see that video. Because believing that this video, you know how the corporate video, how popular they are on YouTube. And then after a year, you have 350 views and that's it, yeah? Looking first, what would be the desirable topic or desirable name to call this video, to give this video chances to run. That's the way to go. And the same with Medium, the same with LinkedIn posts. So we always thinking about our website, example.com, for example, must rank high, must have traffic, and so on and so on. Okay, yes, that's the priority. But on top of that, you can also try to promote, to get a bit of traffic to Medium, a bit of traffic through LinkedIn posts, where you can also say about your brand. And in some extreme example, you can secure 2 or 3 slots in top 10, one with your website, another one with Medium, another one with LinkedIn posts.
Do you look at that as ranking at top for your query, and then you try to replicate their success, basically?
That's correct. Performing, for example, gap analysis. My website I'm working on versus Medium versus LinkedIn. Initially, I will get millions irrelevant keywords. But then I can say, show me only the shared keywords between Medium, LinkedIn, and my website, where LinkedIn and or Medium are ranking in top 10, and my website is ranking somewhere far away. Of course, I can try to write the content for my website in the first place. But sometimes keyword may be too competitive, and it will be hard to jump into top 10. Medium and LinkedIn, however, on the other hand, they have a huge authority. So I could potentially secure that slot with my Medium blog post or LinkedIn blog post.
Just to reiterate, on Google, your site's authority matters when you want to rank a page specifically. On platforms like YouTube, did I understand that you can just have a video that does really well without having a successful channel?
That's correct. That's what I'm saying. If you think about corporate video, it would be hard to create a community channel. And so we're talking about years. And you know what really is promoted on YouTube? This kind of the highest number of subscribers have this Minecraft and the Lego assembling channels and so on and so on and so on. But there is Google. And Google is promoting very strongly YouTube in their SERPs. So if we can identify on what keywords YouTube is ranking high, but not with our video, then we can try to create that video, maybe a bit longer to the original one that is ranking, maybe a bit more insightful, and we can pop there.
Do you think that every business is eligible for benefiting from Parasite SEO on these platforms, or are there specific types of businesses that don't really? I mean, is it just a matter of creativity of like finding like anybody can succeed on these platforms, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that there are any limitation. Probably I wouldn't also generalize and say like absolutely without any doubts every business. If you have like strongly medical businesses or I don't know, like oil rig platform construction companies, it's hard to believe that someone will search for higher oil rig
Yeah, yeah,
construction
definitely.
platform in Google and say like, oh, these guys, yeah, bang. It doesn't work like that, yeah.
All right. And my almost last question is for anybody, our listeners looking to start with exploring traditional ways. Where would you recommend our listeners would start doing their SEO, transforming their approach to doing SEO after listening to our conversation?
I think languages would be my first choice, especially if you know a little about your market and so on and so on. If you are operating in UK, for example, it's very good to have Romanian, Bulgarian, and Polish because these are huge communities here of people speaking Romanian, speaking Bulgarian, speaking Polish. And we're not talking about targeting people in Romania, in Bulgaria, in Poland. We're talking about people targeting in UK who have this manner of searching in their own languages. So that would be my advice. And the same, it can be scaled into, let's say, Switzerland or Canada, where are two languages, French and English. In Switzerland, as far as I know, there is French and German. So, having this website into two languages, it's fantastic.
Yeah, even me living in Ukraine, I almost like 99% of the time I use English when I Google. So they have to
That's it.
satisfy that demand for me as well.
Exactly, exactly. But I could see that when I moved to UK in 2007, I noticed that there were in Google Analytics huge amount of visits from it was the setup of the browser was Polish. And I knew that these people are from UK, but because they had own laptops that bring still from Poland, then all the settings was Polish and so on and so on. And those days we could measure the keywords visits in Google Analytics. So of course there was a massive footprint left by the community of people who were using. In your case, it's more natural. You're searching in English. You are in Ukraine, so potentially, if there is an Ukrainian business that would like to target you in Ukraine, also should consider English website. Yeah, because otherwise they may miss opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah.
I see the same in Poland right now, more than back in the day. Back in the day, everything was like, we have a Polish version and we are thinking about English. Now people are starting with English version and then adding Polish and then adding other languages.
Where can people find you? Because when I was looking for you, I saw two LinkedIn pages. One was in Polish, one was in English, which is also something that you do to cast a wider net to get more noticeability online. So how would people, our listeners, where can they reach out to you for a comment, for consultation services?
Yeah, the LinkedIn would be my first choice, Lukasz Zelezny, and you can find me additionally SEO.London.
Great, Lukasz. We can end it here. Today, Lukasz Zelezny talked about various untraditional approaches to doing SEO. Hope our listeners are already thinking about how to apply these insights to their work. Thank you, Lukasz, for being here and taking the time out of your busy schedule. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe and join the next episode of the Do Follow podcast.